Becca, you are on the air.
Hi.
Hey. For anyone listening out there, this is my sister. Hello.
Hello.
Thank you for calling.
Mm-hmm.
So what do you want to talk about?
Maybe just some of the difficulties that I, as someone on the spectrum, have had.
Mm-hmm.
Just with sexuality in general and dating.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely identified with the caller earlier who was saying that, well, when you're young and you don't understand what's going on and you're not particularly interested in boys, so you must be gay, right?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It's the only reason.
It's the only alternative.
Yeah. When, maybe it's just that there's, I am a heterosexual female. But at 14 years old, with so many other things going on, 14, 15, 16 years old, and not experiencing what I thought my peers were experiencing in terms of attraction to the opposite sex.
Mm-hmm.
I legitimately thought for a while that I must be a lesbian. I wasn't really attracted to women either. I just, I think it's difficult because there are a lot of other things going on which can influence that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're also talking about, the part of the conversation in dating where they say, tell me something, tell me a little bit about yourself. Do you have any idea how hard that question is?
Very.
And I've been asked that question for college interviews and job interviews, and it's very difficult. Especially, I can't speak for anyone else, but for me, because for the most part, when I am thinking about things, I'm thinking about things outside of myself. And so it's very hard for me to put anything that is internal into words.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't describe me. So having that dating conversation is even more difficult.
Yeah, do you find yourself kind of giving rote answers, things that you've said before and just sort of pulling them out because you feel like you're expected to? Or do you feel like at a certain point you're able to really relate to that question? No, it still feels kind of fake in a way?
I would say that 95% of my interactions with other people feel fake because it is me acting in a way to suit society's expectations.
Mm-hmm.
It's part of the reason that I was interested in my husband. I am married. I have a young daughter. And
absolutely adorable, by the way, if anyone is wondering.
Yes, thank you. I believe that she is the most amazing thing in the world, and I'm not biased at all.
Nope.
But part of I think what attracted me to my husband the most was that almost immediately after meeting him, I was able to not have to fake it.
Mm-hmm.
That in and of itself, don't get me wrong, he does not always understand what I'm trying to say, but he's okay with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is a really important aspect of any relationship for someone on the spectrum or not, but especially on the spectrum, because we have such a hard time, acting in a way that is deemed like socially acceptable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that you raise a really interesting point about, we spend a lot of time talking about how to finesse these things, how to communicate well, how to date in a way that's appealing to others and, lure people in. But it is terribly important not to lure anybody in who's not going to be interested in the real you, because that is going to come out eventually. So being comfortable being yourself, being genuine in that way, and finding somebody who enjoys that about you.
And I don't have a whole lot of color commentary on this one because I kind of know your life story, so I feel like I have insider knowledge that is probably coloring my thoughts of questions. I'm like, no, I already know the answer to that.
Ask it anyway. I'm really bad. I'll answer just about any question, which people look at me weird, so...
No, I know. I've gotten that look from you before when I've asked questions. But socially, as a female on the autism spectrum, how did you feel you may have been treated differently than your male counterparts growing up?
I think that's probably the same way that most females are treated differently than males as they're growing up. Only in my case, it may have, I may have experienced it in a more extreme way, because a lot of I know I've heard autism referred to as like extreme male brain. So a lot of the I don't buy that, but that's
differences. That's mostly because I know you.
Like growing up, a lot of times I would be told that I thought and acted like a boy. I was straightforward. I don't know if
Yeah, because guys are mostly just allowed to be themselves. They don't have to make everything flowery and convenient for the listener.
You were bold. You were open. You were forward.
I loved math and science because it had rules.
Yeah.
Woo-hoo.
And I think that if I were, I don't know, the expectations may have been different or less significant had I been born male. Is that answering the question that you asked?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and walking away, I guess my last question for you would just be, what advice do you have for anybody out there who is, a parent of somebody who may be displaying signs of autism and is concerned about how best to offer support, or for anybody who is just now kind of coming awake sexually and wanting to have these sexual and romantic experiences? What tips would you recommend? What books would you send them to, or movies to watch? How would you help guide them through that process?
For parents who think their children may be displaying signs of autism, I would say just talk to your child's pediatrician. The pediatrician probably knows someone who can do screening or more in-depth screening than the pediatrician themselves can do. And sexuality, that's a toughie because it's so individual to the person.
Sure.
And society, I was lucky growing up that my mother would always, say that she didn't care about, sexual orientation or anything like that. She just wanted us to be who we were. But even with that, it was still very hard to figure things out for myself. And, like I said, I can't speak for anyone else. I think that's a universal coming of age sort of thing. But really just telling people to be okay with who they are and not being afraid to look deeper into themselves to try and figure out who they are if they're not sure. Mm-hmm. Because there's no bad that can come of that.
Well, thank you so much for calling.
Yeah, I think that's beautiful advice for anybody, but I do really appreciate you touching base with us and sharing that.
Mm-hmm.
And I will talk to you later outside of this recording studio.
Okay. Your niece is very upset that she couldn't call.
Oh.
Well, tell her Auntie Meg will call later.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Bye.
Bye.